Hello everyone, my name is Karen Gall and I'm so pleased to be here today to share some of the Jewish traditions during this celebration of Alberta Culture Days, multiculturalism under the mid-autumn moon. Like many other cultures and religions, the Jewish faith has a calendar that is based on the phases of the moon. When there is a new moon, a new month begins. We have several autumnal holidays that lead one into the next. But because there are so many elements, themes, and traditions involved in each of these special days, I can only give you a little taste of each of them today. Rosh Hashanah begins at sundown this Friday evening, September 18. Rosh Hashanah literally means head of the year. It is the first of our autumn holy days and festivals, and begins the 10 days of awe, marking the time from the beginning of the new year to the end of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. It is a time for serious reflection about the year that has passed and the promise to live a better life that we bring into the new year. Yom Kippur is a day of 25 hours of fasting and prayer. We say that on Rosh Hashanah, the book of life is opened, and at the end of Yom Kippur, the book is closed. We greet people with the wish that their names be written in the book of life for a good and prosperous year. A few days after Yom Kippur is over, we celebrate Sukkot. Essentially, Sukkot is the biblical harvest festival when we celebrate the success of the summer's crops, show gratitude for the bountiful harvest, and share the abundance with family and friends. Essentially, it's the Jewish Thanksgiving. At the end of the 8-day festival of Sukkot, we celebrate Simchat Torah, rejoicing the Torah. We finish the annual cycle of reading the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and we immediately rewind the scroll to begin and start again at Bereshit, Genesis. This concept of continuity of life, learning, turning, returning, and renewal is reflected even in the food we eat during the high holy days and autumn festivals. Our usual braided bread, the challah, is shaped in a circle, like a crown representing God's unending sovereignty, or like a spiral representing the unending spiral of time. We bake apple cakes and honey cakes, and we dip apples and bread in honey to welcome in a sweet new year. In order to share some of these traditions with you today, I'm going to demonstrate how to make my favorite honey cake and also how to braid and shape the round challah that we enjoy during all of our autumn holy days and festivals. Shana Tova u'metuka, may you have a good and sweet year. Shana Tova, everyone, Happy New Year. As I explained in my video, the Jewish New Year is starting on Friday evening this week, and I'm going to demonstrate how I make a honey cake. Now, in order to wish everyone Shana Tova u'metuka, a good year and a sweet year, we tend to include sweet things in our food choices. And so that includes having apples and honey, apple cake, challah with raisins in it, and honey cake. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate. The recipe that I'm using comes from Noreen Gillitz's Food Processor Bible, which makes it really easy to make. So we'll start with 2.5 cups of flour, into the food processor with 1 teaspoon baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. All right, Let's turn this machine on for 10 seconds. All right, that's combined well. Now, the instructions say to pour the dry ingredients into another bowl, an empty bowl, and here it goes. Get it all ready for the next part. The next step is to process 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar with 3 eggs. And the recipe does say that you could use 2 eggs and 2 egg yolks if you want to lighten it somewhat. The instructions say process for 30 seconds with the pusher tube out. I assume that's to incorporate more air into the batter. And I believe that the reason why we had the pusher tube in for the dry ingredients was that it wouldn't make a cloud of flour through the kitchen. I stopped counting when I started talking. There we go. All right, as you see, I have a second copy of the book, an earlier copy, and I've used it so much, it's in 4 different pieces. So I'm doing the recipe from there, but it's like exactly the same as in Noreen's beautiful new book. All right, now time to add some more ingredients. Now, we add honey and oil and process for 1.5 minutes. So, first all right, 1 cup of liquid honey and 3/4 of a cup of oil. I measured the oil in here first, then I added the honey, and you'll see how easily the honey comes out. It doesn't stick at all. If you either spray your measuring cup first or just put the oil in first, and it should all come out just beautifully. Here it comes, but I could help it a little bit. There we go. Now this will be for 1.5 minutes. There we go. 1.5 minutes, and I counted this time. All right. What are we up to? Add honey and oil, we did that. Remove cover and add dry ingredients, which we had poured into this other bowl. And here it goes. In you go. And the last ingredient is 1/2 cup of cola. So, and you can use diet cola, which is what's in this cup. You can use coffee, you could use tea, or you could use orange juice. And just pour it on top of the dry ingredients. Now, you process with 4 or 5 pulses. You don't want to process it you don't want to just press on, because then your batter will end up too tough. You'll work up too much gluten and your cake won't be as fluffy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and have a look, and it looks like it's completely blended. Do not over process. See, I followed instructions. Okay, immediately remove processor from the base. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a stir to get the the top flour mixed in. There you go. And immediately pour into a prepared pan. And I'm using a bundt pan that I've sprayed with the Pam baking spray. So that has both oil and flour in it. And in it goes. This is one of the easiest honey cake recipes that I have found, and it turns out just delicious. There we go. And into the oven it goes for 1 hour until the cake test's done. Then you let it cool for 20 minutes and then remove it from the pan. And here we go, into the oven. I have preheated the oven to 320 degrees Fahrenheit. In you go, honey cake, and we'll see you. I'll check you in about 50 minutes. All right, the honey cake has been in the oven for 1 hour. Let's test to see if it's done with a skewer. Perfect. So I'll bring it out of the oven and put it on a rack to cool for 20 minutes. All right, everyone, this is what we've been waiting for. Noreen Gillitz's honey cola cake for Rosh Hashanah is finished baking. It's cooled in the pan for, about 20-30 minutes. And let's watch the magic. Oh, I heard it go thump. That's good. There you go. And just adjust it a little bit. And then top it off with a little bit of powdered sugar on the top. Looks like snow. We don't want snow. We just want our fall holiday. There we go. And Shana Tova Umituka. Happy and sweet New Year to everyone. I'm about to do a demonstration to show everybody how I shape the challah that I make for our high holy days. One idea of doing the challah is to make them round, because it shows that the year begins and the year ends and there's no real division between the beginning and the end. So it's the continuity. Another idea is that it stands for the crown that it represents the sovereignty of God. So I made my challah dough earlier and it has risen, and I am going to punch it down, and there it goes. That's a beautiful rise. I'm going to make 2 different shapes. And I'll turn it out onto the table and cut it in half, and then I'll be able to make the different shapes. All right, so the amount of dough that I made is enough to make 2 different chalot, or 2 different challahs. So I'm cutting it in half, and I'm going to roll this into a long snake, and then I'll flatten it out and add some raisins. This is going to be a raisin challah. So it's really quite pliable and delightful to work with this dough. All right, this is quite long. I'd like it to be even longer. Aha. Breadcrumbs. All right, trying to flatten this out so I can put the raisins in there. Sometimes I mix it in when I'm kneading the dough, but this time I wanted to do 2 different loaves. Now, in order to make the raisins soft, so they would be nice and soft while the challah bakes, I measured 3/4 of a cup. I measured 3/4 of a cup of raisins and then put some orange juice in them, nuke them in the microwave for about 30 seconds and let them sit to cool completely. All right, this is coming out nice and long. Want it to be nice and long so that I can make a big spiral. And that will be how I shape this round challah. Okay, that's coming along. It's not rocket science and it's not a precision thing. There we go. All right, so, whoops. So I'm going to scatter these raisins, these plumped up raisins. They're nice and soft, so they shouldn't get really hard during baking. And all the way to the end. Here we go. And then, oh, I can throw the last ones on as well. There we go. All right, so I'm going to turn over the edge and capture the raisins, go all the way down from one end to the other, and there we go. And I will seal this once I get it all the way to the end, and then I'll roll it to try to get it to be even longer. Okay, let's see about this. All right. Here we go. This is a good idea. I need to pinch it to seal it. All the way from one end to the other. And let me make sure that it's sealed all the way along. I'm just pinching the end to the roll, and then I'll roll it out. The longer the better. Here we go. The longer it is, the more coils I can make. Move it down more. I'm going to move this. That's for our next color. I'm squeezing out some air pockets there. All right. Now remember, the food that we eat, the traditional food represents the bounty of the autumn and the season, and as well the sweetness for the new year, the coming year. All right, so I have a pan, I have a 9-inch pan here that I've sprayed with PAM for baking, and I've got a piece of parchment paper in the bottom because parchment paper makes everything easier. All right, so I'm going to start to coil this around and around and try to build it up. Oh, maybe I should switch this to a smaller pan. And let's see if we can make this crown like. Aha. Okay, so I'm going to switch it to a smaller pan, and then I'm going to show you how I braid a different kind of route challah. So here's my second portion of dough. I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. And for each piece, I'm going to roll it out, flatten it, and then fill it with this apple, cinnamon, and sugar mixture. Yum. I love shaping challah. I love trying different kinds of braids, and this one's really fun. Okay, so I'm going to flatten this out as much as I can. Here we go. And a little piece of cinnamon already there. And then I'm going to put this apple cinnamon mixture all the way down. There we go. Then I'll seal it up the same way I sealed the last one, by rolling this over and giving it a pinch to hold it in place. Rolling it over and pinching it to seal it. There we go. All of you in there. Oh, it's really quite moist. That's going to be delicious. Apples and honey. Ah, they're not sticking together. I'm trying. I think I'm going to add a little bit of flour here to dry the dough just a bit. Okay. All right. So let me roll this out and roll it with my hands first, and then I'll flatten it and roll it with the rolling pin so that I can fill it with apples, cinnamon, and brown sugar. And I've got bits of the apple all over this rolling pin already from doing the last one. Here we go. That looks really good. And try to drain some of the juice from the apple. And put it all the way along. And from the last roll that I made, I kind of learned, don't fill it too much. Okay, let me close it up and pinch it shut. And hopefully this one will stay even better than the first one did. And here we go. A little bit of cinnamon on the outside, but that's okay. And there we go. All right, we'll come back when I get the other 2 filled. So I have 4 snakes that are filled with apples, cinnamon, and brown sugar mixture. And they look a little sloppy, but you know, it's all going to be good to eat. So first thing I'm going to do is make a hashtag. 2 going sideways and cross them over so they're woven together like that. And this one's really the sad looking one. However, it's going to be delicious anyways. All right, over and under and under and over. Then you go around the side and the one that comes from underneath, you put over the one beside it. This came from underneath and it goes over. Came from under, goes over, came from under, goes over. Now we're going to go in the other direction. Just you can feel a little bit sorry for this little guy here who just won't stay together, but it'll be delicious anyway. So we went this way, now we're going to go the other way. If it came under, you go over and over and over and over. And we'll see if we can get one more weaving done. Okay, so this was under. We'll go over and over and over and over. Now, I'm going to add some more apples in the center here. It's not going to be on top, it's going to end up being in the middle. And then I take all of these ends and I bunch them up over the apples and hold it in my hand and flip it over. And there we go, all flipped over with all the messy part, most of the messy stuff underneath. And there we go, a woven apple stuffed challah. We're going to let it rise and then paint it with an egg wash and then bake them. Welcome back. We're going to paint the challah with an egg wash and sprinkle it with seeds or sugar. So I have in this bowl 1 egg and about a teaspoon-ish of water, and I'm beating them together. Then I use a brush to paint the bread and get in all the nooks and crannies all the way around. You can see this one they both have doubled in size from where I had them before, how they were before, and they're going to rise even more when they're in the oven. So you can put a lot of different things on top of your challah. There's poppy seeds, sesame seeds. I like putting a little bit of this turbinado or raw sugar on top of at least one of them. Okay, so that challah done. Okay, and this one is more of a spiral, and it's also going to get a wash. Some people like to put streusel topping on top of their challah for the new year. And let's hope this rises straight up and doesn't end up falling over. I'm going to turn this a little bit and make sure I got in all the nooks and crannies here. I have a feeling this baby's going to be a little tipsy. So, raisins in here. I'm going to sprinkle some sesame seeds on top. Oh, I love sesame seeds on my challah. I love lots of them. That's a little more than I usually put on in one spot, but hey, more the merrier. And some raw sugar to sprinkle on this one, because if we want a sweet new year, we might as well make it really sweet. It's almost like a dessert bread, you know, when you've got the apples inside. Okay, I'm going to pop these in the oven, and they're going to bake for about 25 minutes, and then I'll bring them out and they'll be done. Well, the challah is done, or chalot. The two of them are done. This one is full of raisins. This one's full of apples. And I'll put them on the table here with our honey cake and our apples from our apple tree and honey for a sweet, wonderful new year.